Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to this video. This is a special video to me because it goes to my very beginning roots as a DJ. um, Back in 1995, 96 is when I first started becoming a DJ and getting into music, playing vinyl. It was new. I wasn't, really familiar with lots of genres. I just knew what I liked and what all my buddies were playing. And being in Florida, we all mainly played breakbeat, progressive house, progressive trance. I played a little more house music than the rest, but I was still playing a lot of progressive. Nowadays, people they mainly know me for deep house, Afro tech, stuff like that. But back in the day, old Wesley played a lot of trance, a lot of progressive trance, a lot of progressive house. And I still got all the vinyl, if y'all ever want to throw down sometime. Anyways, so as a young DJ, I fell in love with an artist named Young American Primitive. I'm not sure where I take that back. I know exactly where. My friend Mark Hurst turned me on to Young American Primitive. And we had a CD of his that we listened to nonstop. And he was underground at that time, and not many people knew who he was. I have no idea how he got that CD. His older brother, was into electronic music, so I'm sure it filtered down from his brother somehow to us. And this is when we were like 17, 18 years old. And eventually, Young American Primitive, some of his music was on a very prolific electronic music CD called Northern Exposure. And if you ask any old school head, they had that CD. They probably still have that CD, or they have the digital copy and they still listen to it all the time. It's that good of a CD. It was a mix CD by Sasha and Digweed, if I remember correctly. I'm old. No telling. It could be by someone else, but I think it is. But it is called Northern Exposure. And Young American Primitive's tracks were on there. And so that's when he really got big. And so he started touring, and people were talking about him in newspapers and articles, or not newspapers, but magazines and websites and blogs and all that stuff were talking about him all the time. And I used to try to describe his music to people when I would turn people on. I was like, okay, you know how Pink Floyd is to rock music? It's like they're like rock music, but they're fucking out there. They're on a whole nother level. Well, that's Young American Primitive to progressive trance or progressive house or trance or whatever. Whatever in the hell, because he is his own genre, and you cannot place him in a genre. His music was so intelligent. His bass lines were so warm and fuzzy, and rolling mountains and a warm California sunset that just blended into the ocean. I don't know how to describe it, and to this day I don't know how to describe his music. And so I would go to record stores back in the day and just dig through all these, artists, and everybody was just like, thoop, 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 thoop. Nobody was doing what he was doing. I eventually found some labels that were, were producing kind of similar music, but nothing like what Young American Primitive was doing. And I was just fascinated by this guy's music. He was my first electronic music that artist that I was just like, this guy gets it, you know? And so I was a fan of his for many, many, many years. And then a few years down the road, I got the chance to interview him on a micro cassette recorder for a website called gtheory.com. He was in Gainesville to play at Simon's, and we had arranged an interview, and we were hanging out at the former SoulHouse in Gainesville, which was like a regular haunt of mine. And I had something similar to this puppy, and I did a really long interview, but this was my first interview with someone, and, you know, I didn't press record soon enough. I didn't leave it recording long enough. I just kind of got what I needed for the article, not thinking about fucking 30 years down the road and other stuff, you know. So, that being said, I've had these tapes for 30 years and I've been wanting to digitize them. And I've fucking have procrastinated on them that much. To the point that it's hard to fucking find these things now. You know how hard it is to fucking find these things? You know how many I ordered online that were pieces of shit? And then, you know what? I had this the whole fucking time. My mom gave it to me, like, I don't know, forever ago. I didn't think it worked. It works fine. So I was able to digitize the interview, which you're about to hear. You're about to hear me. I'm 48 now. You're about to hear me when I was like 18 or 19 years old, nervous as fuck, meeting my idol at the time. So keep that in mind when you're listening to the conversation. Greg has, you know, he made an indelible mark in just that little bit of time that he spent with me. He turned me on to Coast AM and George Art Bell, and then later George Norrie. And if you know anything about UFOs and kind of, you know, the other side of what's out there, Art Bell was the captain of that ship for many, many years. And I didn't know about that. And then one interview with someone I looked up to turned me on to Art Bell. And from the time I was really until I was about 35, until Art Bell died, I listened to Art Bell almost every single night of my life. So, anyways, sidetrack. That being said, here is my interview with Greg Scanavino, Young American Primitive. As of right now, I don't know what's up with him. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he's produced music. All I know is that his social media is off. His SoundCloud is down. His website is down. He's always not been the most like social media person or anything like that. He'll pop his head up and do a show every now and again, or do a remix or something like that. Yeah, I don't really know what's up with him anymore. Think about him all the time, actually. So, Greg, if you see this, or if somebody that knows him sees this, hey man, reach out. My email is in there, and yeah, man, get up with me sometime, dude. Anyways, please stick around and watch the interview, or listen to the interview. Thank you. Okay, we're at SoulHouse with Greg from Young American Primitive. So tell us where you're from, how you got started, and where you want to be.
Well, I grew up in a place called Placerville, California. It's in Northern California. It's a pretty small town, about 2 hours from San Francisco. I originally started getting into electronic music in the mid-'80s when I was in high school, listening to stuff like New Order and Depeche Mode and those kinds of things. Why I was interested to the point that I wanted to actually make the leap from, you know, being a record collector and an avid listener to actually creating music, I'm not really sure. And in fact, I remember I had some really good friends at the time that I had to that I was very surprised by the fact that they didn't want to get into the same kind of thing, and yet they had the same kind of interest in music. So I don't know. I just it's hard to pin that one down exactly. What expressing yourself is such a natural thing, I think, and that was just something I wanted to do. And modern machines are fantastic, and so using modern machines to do it is a good way to go. Let's see.
Yeah.
What else did I ask you?
Where was your first venue or your party that you played at?
Well,
first live performance.
The first live performance I did was at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. It was basically a private party that some of my friends in San Francisco were involved in, and it was after I had recorded my first record. At the time, I wasn't performing, so it was quite a step to kind of go from just recording to putting together a show and actually going out and doing it. And not long after that, I came out here to Florida. It was in Orlando. I did a big show out there, and yeah, it was Infonet 2 is what it was called, and everything's been really rolling since then. I mean, there's been ups and downs to it, but that was a good solid base to start with.
Okay, I read once in an interview, I think it was an interview by Chris Fortier, and or Chris Fortier, and they asked him what they thought about, or what he thought about you, and he described it as just the future of music. How do you feel about that?
I'm very honored by that. That's, I guess I like to conceptualize what I do in that way. I think about the larger socio-technological movements in the world culture and how the use of computers is becoming prevalent and how all that works into the music that we listen to. And so, from that perspective, I really do try to set out to make something that would be future pointing. And so, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I believe it's Chris. It may have been either Kimball Collins or Chris. It's one of those two guys. That's cool. I know for a fact. So, where'd you come up with the name New Young American Primitive?
Well, originally that came from an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Rope. In the movie, they were actually describing a painting that was of the old style called Young American Primitive, New Young American Primitive. But to me, when I heard those words put together, Young American Primitive, it first of all, there's a dichotomy between America and primitive, or maybe not, and young. How did those words fit together? And as I thought about it over the years, this actually, when I sampled that, it was back in, I guess it was probably about '88. So it was, even before I had released records. But as I started to think about it, and how with technology being created, so much of the modern technology being created here in the United States, and with the state of our education system and our economy, that in a lot of ways, to say that the world is in a state of young American primitive is accurate, because rightly or wrongly, for better or for worse, a lot of culture and technology comes from the United States, and we are at the beginning of a young, primitive, right now, movement that is only bound to keep expanding, and that idea to me was really powerful. And so the name Young American Primitive, which I don't see as my name, I'm not the Young American Primitive or something like that. Young American Primitive is the kind of artwork that I do. It's what we are. We are Young American Primitive, and that's what the name means.
Good answer. Very good answer. All right. So, flash the message. What's your message to the world, or to the people that are going to hear you tonight? What do you want them to feel?
My music? What am I trying to get across?
Yeah. What?
Well, one of the things that really interests me about music and even performing is that how powerful music can be emotionally. Even sometimes above and beyond communicating, with words to another person, or any other way of communicating with the person. There's some kind of deep emotional response that people can have to music, and to couple that with the other issues of technological development and really how those two things are blending together, that's the kind of thing I want to get across to people. Make them understand that it's not just dancing and loud thumping music. That there's really a change in themselves that's going to be that could happen through their interest in music, in their making music, and they're going to see someone perform, whatever it is.
Okay, so what can we expect from Young American Primitive in the future as far as the album and a release date?
Well, I'm not sure when that album will come out. I will definitely be in a position to, if nothing else, independently release it at some point, but before too long, there's going to be some new singles out, and hopefully following that will be another new album, and maybe at the same time I'll release both those albums.
Describe the material that'll be on that album.
Maybe.
When,
Yeah, well,
let us know what we can expect.
It's more of the same in some ways, but it also is a further development of the ideas on my first album. I think, the album that I've most recently put together as a whole piece of artwork is much more cohesive. Thematically, when I put together my first album, it was much more of a kind of experimental phase. During different times I'd record a song, and eventually I kind of put a bunch of songs together, but I'm really into the idea of, from beginning to end, conceptualizing, working through, all the way to the end of recording and releasing something. I think it's that much more, it has the potential to be that much more of a powerful piece of artwork if, it is so cohesive, and that's the kind of thing that I'm really trying to pursue. But as far as the type of music, it's good modern electronic music that explores new ways that sounds are created and all these new feelings that we get to feel from listening to music like this.
Good. All right, so what's your favorite website?
Well, for any new hot information, I go to gtheory.com, of course.
What a plug. This guy is great. And finally, are you going to autograph my record?
Where is it? Show it to me.
It's in my car.
I got a pen.
All right, let's do it. Thanks for the interview. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime.
Anytime. All right. Y'all heard that. Y'all heard that.